My question is about how do I maintain a healthy mom and keep it from getting too big between grows? Should I keep it cold, and how cold is too cold, or will that just cause nutrient deficiencies? So to just answer real quickly, yes, temperature when it's too cold will actually cause nutrient deficiencies, mainly around phosphorus. And that's what really appears in the plant. That's anthracyanin. That's the purple color in plants, or the autumn color that maple trees and variety of trees get throughout the world. When it gets too cold, a sugar begins to build up in the leaves and causes the purple color. So just to answer that real quick, then let's jump back over into how do you maintain a healthy mother plant? For me and for our mushroom farm, where we were rotating through roughly around 10,000 plants every 2 to 3 months, we ran through this problem too. Our evolutionary curve was initially we were keeping mothers, and we had a whole section in the mushroom farm just for mothers. And we quickly realized that it was taking up growth space. As they got bigger, they were harder to maintain because as root systems get bigger, the frequency of watering changes. It became difficult to create standard operating procedures maintaining mothers with the skeleton crew. And this was our situation, right? So I'm only telling you how we navigate this problem and how I now recommend people to navigate this problem. So the key to really navigating this problem is to not have mothers, actually. What you want to do is you want to create a very efficient systems and processes through the cloning stage right before you send your veg plants into flowering. So let's say you have 10 plants in veg and you're right about to send them to flowering. I can almost guarantee you can at least find 2, maybe even 3 clones where you would have trimmed your plants on the bottom 1/3 of all your plants, where you could have found at least 2 to 3 clones off that plant right before you send it over into flowering. And if you took 2 or 3 clones off of each of those 10 plants, now you have 30 plants that are exact identical DNA codes of the plants that you're sending into flowering, which now you have a perpetual grow going, and you have your mothers becoming clones again, which become small plants. When they're small plants, they're easier to maintain. They're easier to spray with OrganiShield. It's easier to add the drops of balance in, a foliar spray, trace minerals. You're not using as much nutrients and fertilizer with clones than with mother plants. And like I said, with the small plant, you can visually see what's going on with this plant, and the plant's going to be a small clone plant and will become a preteen within a couple weeks, guys. So really the need to grow and maintain a plant that will very quickly grow to a 3-foot large plant, bush out, and very quickly take up the majority of your real estate. Think about that as well. Like one plant can very easily take up 9 square feet in your grow room. And if you had 9 square feet, right, if you would have just cloned your plants, your 30 clones are now only taking up 2 feet by 3 feet of space, right? So that's, what is that going to be? 6 square feet of space. But if you grow vertically, now you're really becoming more efficient around your cloning because they're not tall, right? So you can maintain them on shelves and racks, and they're not taking up your prime real estate, and you're not using one large light to maintain one plant. You're using a smaller light, which is saving you money, and it becomes more efficient throughout your entire grow operation. So my recommendation, if it wasn't clear, was to not have mothers. You become very efficient. Use your plants as they grow from clone to veg to preteen right before you transition into flowering, in which you're going to have to already go in there and clean up the bottom 1/3 of all your plants right before you send them into flowering anyways. Right there at that very time, clone your plants. My parents, they developed the systems processes for harvesting, packaging, distributing lettuce worldwide with lead anil back in the 60s and 70s. And in a 12-year span, they took lettuce production from harvesting and packaging and distributing lettuce from 1,400 pounds up to about 65,000 pounds an hour of harvesting, packaging, distributing lettuce and other mixed grains. And my parents, they were really great at identifying the fat. And one of the things they identified very quickly was that the people out there in the field, they would grab the head of lettuce, they would chop it off the plant, they would put it in a box. Then they would take the head of lettuce, take it into the processing plant, and they would mess with it again. And then they would take the head of lettuce again and put it in a bag. And before you know it, 4 or 5 guys have touched this head of lettuce. And every single time they pick up the head of lettuce and put down the head of lettuce, it creates a major inefficiency of the amount of time it takes to process the head of lettuce. And this was one of the biggest things my parents recognized, is that if you touch something, you want want to do what you have to do so no one else has to touch it again. And by doing that, you now have saved 4 or 5 other people their time on dealing with that head of lettuce. Same thing with these clones, right? So to finish that point, the head of lettuce, my parents actually made a tool to remove the core out of the heads of lettuce. So now every person that harvests lettuce, they are required to have this tool where they chop it, they turn the head of lettuce around, they stab it, they remove the core right there in the field. At that point, it goes right into the processing machine right there in the field, and it gets put into bags or goes further to be chopped and put into the processing plants and utilized in other ways. So now all the work's done right there in the field by one person, and it's bagged and ready to go to market within minutes of being chopped down. Same thing with these plants. When you're getting your clones and you're doing it to mothers, right? When you're going in there, you don't want to clean off the bottom 1/3 and then a few days later go in there and find a couple clones and then pull all the equipment out to do that and then go put them away. You don't want to then get your plant and put them in the firing room. No, you want to get it all done at once. You have your plant right before it goes in flowering. I mean, literally, you're sending it into flowering that day. You chop off a couple, throw them in a glass jar. Plant goes over into the flowering room. Now, by the end of the day, or within an hour or two, you've quickly cleaned up the bottom 1/3 of your 5 or 10 plants. Now you have a glass jar of 30 or 40 potentially beautiful clones. Your plants are already in flowering. Now you come back to your clones. You already have your clone material already set up and established. You clean up your material. You do what you need to do for your cloning, stick them, put them under a dome, throw them underneath your shelf. And now in anywhere from 6 days to 8 days later, you're going to have clones that are ready to be transplanted, put into a grow bag or a grow pot or however you're growing. And within 3 weeks after that, you're going to have another preteen/mother ready to pull another 3 clones, and you have your perpetual grow going. Always being able to select the best clones and only push forward the strongest of the clones and the strongest of the genetics that you pull from.